Well, good morning, everybody. I'm glad you could join us today. We've got a really nice crowd here this morning, so it's great to have you all here. As Josh kind of steps through the slides here, I'm going to talk about three different things. Well, I'm going to talk about a number of things on each slide, but three basic slides of what we're doing today, what we're doing tomorrow, what we're doing after that, or at least what we're thinking about doing after that, because as Tobias said, we really do want your input on that. But I'm going to talk a little bit today about FileWave 1410. And first, I'll just talk about the version number. You may say, wow, 1410 seems a little unusual. Any of you that manage Apple know that it's not that unusual, but we thought about this, about whether we go to version 15 at this point, but we decided to stick with 1410 because of deployments. And any of you that joined us last summer for our webinars, you have at least seen deployments a little bit. We're waiting until the release after this one to go to version 15, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So this next release is version 1410. It's in the hands of our early adopters right now, but we'll generally release next week, March the 1st. It's several things in the release that we're really happy about, because Tobias said we're trying to get back to innovations in the product, again, doing things that help on a day-to-day basis. So the first thing that we've touched on here is the ability to do a forced reboot in a file set. When we kind of look at the requests that folks, talk about things that are in FileWave today, not new features, but things that are in FileWave today, there's kind of two that are at the top of the list where we've got the most requests. One is reboot behavior in file sets, and the other has to do with kiosk. So we try to touch the reboot options within a file set here. And Josh, if you can show that image. This is a snapshot from within version 1410, and you'll see there's a new option in a file set when we set a reboot, right? When there's a required reboot in a payload, you can now also force the reboot in the payload settings. So what this will do is we'll forcibly reboot the device 2 minutes either after either activation of the file set, if there's no reboot deadline, or 2 minutes after the reboot deadline, if it's specified when this file set is deployed. And the use case for this, and I do urge caution with this, but the use case for this particular need is around 0-day exploits especially. So this is something where you would likely see an issue where you've got a patch for something, a third-party patch or an OS patch that you need to get out right away. It's super important to get it out. You can send it with a force reboot, and this makes it so that customers can't just ignore the reboot dialog and move it off to the side of the screen. And you'd think, oh, nobody does that, but unfortunately they do. Take that dialog, just move it off to the side and don't actually reboot. So the patch is never actually effectively applied. This allows you to work around that. But of course, you do want to take this with a grain of salt, knowing what impact this could have on the environment. So sending a reboot to a device. So here I'm sitting with my CEOs on this call, and if we were managing his device in FileWave and he's working on a really long email to the board and he hasn't saved it and he's got that Word document open and we send this thing down to his device and it forcibly reboots, he's going to lose that work, right? So it's not something that we're going to do lightly, and it's definitely something we would do in coordination with customer communication. Hey, this patch is coming out tonight, just so you know, and it's going to forcibly reboot your device. So you really should, close all your things ahead of time, that kind of thing. But it had been a highly requested feature, and we're very happy to provide it. And although I'm giving a screenshot here that's from our FileWave Central product, the native admin, it's also in the web admin FileWave Anywhere as well. All right, Josh, if you want to go to the next thing there. Okay. The second thing we've added is, I really like it because I feel it's innovative, is to add a customized overlay, a text overlay to iOS wallpapers. Now, of course, Apple MDM supports setting a wallpaper, but what we've added, in fact, Josh, you can go ahead and show that next image. This is what the configuration for a wallpaper would look like in 14.9 or earlier. This happens to be from the FileWave Anywhere admin, where you could just set, hey, this is the lock in the home screen, and we're going to set here's the wallpaper that I want to set, and that's all you could do. Now, within the MDM framework, there's no capability to say add text there, but what we were able to do, and this is the effect of that policy you see before, is a wallpaper is applied to the device, and you can set some text down at the bottom, but as you can see, it's super tiny, right? And so everybody complained, oh, that's too small, but that's what the MDM framework allows us to do, is to set that kind of lock screen message down there at the bottom. And that's the best we could do. In this case, it was showing what school, that it's student device, the username, and an asset tag. But if you go to the next image there, Josh, you'll see that now what we've added on top of that is the ability to do both static and customized text on top of this image. This doesn't actually have anything to do with the MDM framework, but what we're doing is we're taking this text and we're processing this for every single device where the wallpaper is assigned. We programmatically process it. We create an image with the, in this case, dynamic content, which I'll talk about in a second. We take that image that we've created, overlay it over the wallpaper that we've set. We can set a position, we can set the text size, and we can set the color of that. And the result is you can end up with this particular view, which is now in the lock screen in this case, or in the on the home screen, you're going to see the asset tag in my environment. And you see here that it's dynamically replaced that value. So I've put a label there that is asset tag. You know, you don't necessarily need to do that. I just did that for clarity here. But that FW-198724 is my totally fictitious, made up custom field for asset tag that's assigned to this device. So every singular device is going to have a different wallpaper than for it. But what this allows you to do is just very quickly and easily identify an iPad, because I've seen how you all live that manage thousands of iPads. And every one of you that I've ever seen has a room somewhere with 1,000 of the darn things stacked up in piles. And this just makes it much, much easier to see them. So we're super excited about that particular edition. All right. Any questions or anything so far? I see there's a couple of questions in the chat.
Can you have deferrals with the reboot deadline?
Can you have deferrals with the, no, not yet, not yet. That's one of the additional requests related to reboot. So we've got this whole kind of epic, if you will, of different stories for reboot behavioral changes. That's one of them that you could, you know, delay it, you know, for up to X amount of time and add some more granular controls now. But we felt that security use case was the most pressing. So that's the one that we focused on first.
And then someone who didn't touch deployments yet, when would you suggest they start switching to them? You'd probably think the next release, right? Or
yeah, let's table that one for a minute, and we'll talk about it when we get to the next slide. But also in this, I have to be, you know, at least somewhat contrite here in today's presentation, because many of you had reported to us over the last 6 months or so that you were seeing issues with Windows clients. One of the things that we found and have now fixed in 14.10 is that we had a memory leak in our Windows client that we just had super trouble nailing down. But once we eventually isolated it being related to running a verify on a Windows client that it would take memory and not give it back, what we had was customers that were having trouble with their Windows clients crashing. So we made two really significant fixes around this. One is that we've fixed the leak, to almost quote Office Space. We fixed a leak here so that leak no longer happens, but also we've made a change to the way the Windows client behaves, that the Windows FileWave client service will automatically restart now if it does indeed crash. You could easily make the argument that we should have already had that, but that's water under the bridge. But we've made that change now. So should we experience an issue in the future like this, not only would is it possible that something could crash, but if it does crash, the service should restart. And a little later, I think Josh might talk a little bit about how you can do some creative work in FileWave to address an issue like this and try to work around problems that are, because the issue that we experience with our service in this case could be any service that you have on a Windows device that maybe is critical to your environment. Say it's a antivirus is one, of course, malware protection, et cetera, those types of services. I was actually trying to think of what's the term for the network shield. Why can't I
EDR?
It
was EDR.
Yeah, that's one as well. All right, so any mission critical service on the Windows side, though, there's some really creative things that you can do with custom fields and scripting to be able to help you deal with restarts and stuff, et cetera. So we'll talk about that, I think, a little bit later. A couple of other noteworthy product additions, and this one is the main reason that we're holding off on version 15 now, is deployment. So we've had questions, and we've been a little all over the place with our direction, but we're firmly set on our direction of what we're doing with our product, and we're staying with the native FileWave Central tool. But we're also adopting things that we see as having been done better in the web, and we're using both tools. And one of those tools is deployments. And there was a question here before about moving over to deployments. So in this stage in version 14.10, you'll see the deployments now show in Central. Josh, if you can go to that next image there, you'll see just a little screen grab of my environment where you can see.
I would, except it will not advance.
Okay, well, imagine in your mind's eye that there's a picture of the FileWave admin here that shows deployments in the native admin. So it's there, and you can see them today. You can kind of do two things with it. You can see them, and you can delete them. You cannot yet edit them. That will be in our next version. As well, we've gone ahead and added help menus into the Central and Anywhere products, so both in our native admin console and in our web admin console, to allow you to more easily get directly to the knowledge base, to Foundry, to Discord, which we'll talk about later, and the Alliance forums. So all of those things are in there too. So we're pretty excited about this release. We also have
Google.
Yeah.
Let me just stop sharing for a second, because Google Presentations has let me down. Actually, no, Ring Central let me down. Because I can't stop sharing either.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, I'll talk about, I did have on the list here, but realized I didn't mention that there are a lot of other bugs and defects addressed. We've made a couple of significant fixes related to some of the underlying tools that are in the product. We have overall a little bit over 80 different issues that are resolved. Some of them are significant, some a lot less, so that are in this version as well. So we highly recommend moving over to this version. We'll talk about some security stuff in a minute, but a couple of other notes here. There is a new port related to NATs that you'll want to enable for notifications in your environment. So that's port 20,124. Eventually we'll run out of port numbers, but we certainly have a lot of them. So that you'll want to make sure that you open up before you do the upgrade, so you don't have any kind of notification issues. And the other thing I want to talk about is just best practice stuff, because we've had a number of issues over the past few weeks where customers have run into trouble when they're running our solution on-premise, in their own environments, and have run into a hardware issue without appropriate backups. It is terrible when that happens, because it's very difficult to recover from it. There are certificates, the push notification, the magic token, or whatever they call that, is you can't really replicate it. A lot of times you end up in a place where you have to do device re-enrollment. It's a very ugly scenario. So you really want to make sure that if you're running on-premise, that you've got good backups of your environment, and that includes backing up off of that disk, because a lot of times what we see is that, oh, okay, we had good backups, but it's actually on the same hardware, and then we lose the disk, and then we're in deep trouble, because they're kind of two pieces. It's the enrollment part that's very difficult to fix, and then also all the file sets that you've built over the years, losing that content, that's all stored on disk as well. So very difficult. Highly recommend that you do backups. But for those of you who are running on-prem, and this is the second reason I wanted to mention this, if you don't see any value, and largely what we're seeing in FileWave's future is that we don't see a lot of value in you having to maintain the server and go through the process of upgrading all the components and everything every time we release a new version. So we're really looking more at a SaaS offering in future for our product. So if you're at all interested, we do have a cloud offering now where we can run your environment for you, and then you don't have to worry about any of the upgrades or backups or recovery or any of that kind of stuff that we're running that. So if that's something that interests you, please do reach out to either the customer experience team on your renewals, or reach out to your sales rep to talk to them about that if you like. Okay, I think we've lost Josh, but that doesn't mean I can't share. So let me see if I can share my screen. One moment, please.
Maybe, Tony, while you are preparing your screen sharing, just answering some questions. I'm typing, but it's probably simpler if I'm talking. So yeah, there was one question about when to use deployment, starting to use deployment, and when exclusions will be available in FileWave Central Admin. So as Tony mentioned, we are working currently on bringing deployments in native admins, so FileWave Central. 14.10, you will be able to see the deployments you've created in FileWave Anywhere Web Admin and just delete them. And we are currently working to bring complete support for deployment, including exclusion, in version 15. One thing to mention is that we also took the opportunity to work for the management of exclusions under the hood. We realized that it was, in some cases, it was not as predictable as we wanted. So we worked on fixing this, and that's something you will not see, but we already made some changes in 14.10. So when you will go with 15, it will work smoothly and not break everything if you upgrade first to 14.10 to 15. So that's one answer. There was another question about adding macOS profiles for login and background items in Ventura. That's coming in 14.10, so it's there as well. And yeah, I think that's it in terms of questions. I hope I have all of them.
Thank you for that, PN. And that kind of leads us into the next thing that we have on this list, which is what's next, like what's on the horizon. And what's going on right now is we're in the first of 3 cycles of development for version 15. And why are we calling this version 15? Well, it's this first item that's in the list. It's what PN was just talking about. It's completing the implementation of deployments within FileWave Central and doing some of that housekeeping stuff that PN was mentioning. We see deployments as being the kind of next generation of associations. You shouldn't really think of it probably as replacing associations. They're more like associations plus, where very, very similar to associations, but just taking kind of one step further. In version 15, that will be fully compatible, finally, I will add the finally in there, between our web solution, the FileWave Anywhere solution, and the FileWave Central solution. So you'll be able to fully use deployments in version 15 in both the native and the web tools. And just to reiterate on the website of things in the FileWave Anywhere product, we're not looking to make that web interface do absolutely everything that the native solution does. We're looking to make it do 99% of what the normal field technician would do in the field. So things like assigning devices to groups, assigning a Windows image, which happens to be also something that we're doing in version 15, that you can assign an image to a device, that you could choose to restart a device, that you could associate a file set through a deployment, that you could move devices between groups, you could create new groups, and all those things that you would like to be able to do when you're in the field, maybe only even carrying an iPad with you. It's kind of a target for that solution. And then we'll see where it goes from there. We're going to let that grow organically based on the types of things that you tell us that it should be doing. But we'll finally, in version 15 here, have a totally compatible pair of admin consoles between our native solution that we call FileWave Central and our web solution, which we call FileWave Anywhere. We're continuing also to invest in what we call, kind of back-end refactoring of the product to make it more stable and performant, and specifically in version 15 and likely version 15.1 as well. We're working on trying to optimize model update. We believe there's some time savings to be had there if we can make model update faster, especially in the larger environments where we know it's super impactful for model updates to run. If we can get it faster, there's a target number that we have in mind, but I'd rather see that we deliver it before I share that number. But we are looking to stabilize model update and make it more performant. So we're super hopeful that we'll be able to do that in versions 15 and 15.1. And we're continuing to try to add small features while we're working on planning the longer term, bigger features, but impactful enhancements that improve your administrator's day-to-day management, whether that's you, whether that's other folks as well. The things that we're specifically targeting here for 15 are the ability to duplicate a profile. You cannot do that today. When we build a profile, and the use case here is, at least in my mind specifically, is around restriction profiles, where maybe you've built a restriction that's actually quite complex with a number of things that are in it. You need to make another one that's very similar to it, but just with some small changes. And the way it is today is you have to rebuild that profile from scratch. This will allow you to duplicate a profile, and it will automatically handle things like renaming it behind the scenes and everything to handle that part of it. So we're very excited about that one. We're also making it's kind of a small change into the license reporting, but adding some additional fields there. So when you look at licensing, especially with VPP licensing, you'll not only be able to see things like the serial number, but actually the device name as well when you're looking at those licensing reports. And then the last thing that I'm super excited about is we've always given guidance for a long time and said, hey, if you just need to report on something in FileWave, use a report, use an inventory query rather than a smart group. And the reason we say that is inventory queries only run when you look at them. They're not really running on a periodic basis like smart groups do. And so smart groups kind of bog down the system a little bit. They're very useful, but we don't want to create additional server load by having them. So we always say, hey, if it's just reporting, if you're not really looking to assign content to the device, then do it in an inventory query. But one of the things that's always been difficult in the FileWave Central tool is you look at it in the report, and what can you do with the device in the report? The only thing you could do is right click on it, and there's an option to say reveal client, that then takes you over to the client's view with that device highlighted. So what we're doing is we're adding those actions, those right click actions that you would have in the client view. We're going to add them directly into inventory queries. You'll be able to directly right click on a device and put it into, say, loss mode, or directly right click on a device and choose to restart it. So each of those things we're quite happy about doing. The work is underway right now. I will show you, I think, I don't have the screenshot for it. I actually had it. Let me see if I can go back to it just for a second and show you those two. This is the deployments as they are in version 14.10. Right, so you can see that they're here, and as I said, you can't edit them yet, but you can delete them. And in fact, I used that when I was doing some of the wallpaper testing stuff. So deployments now show right there alongside associations, and we're super excited about that. So in 15, we'll see that. And then, as I said, we also are showing there's some new links in the help menu so that you can get to some of our, I don't know why we never thought of this before, and seems such a small and ridiculous thing that we should have done it a million years ago. But Josh thought of it, and so we've added all these links directly into the product as well. And again, those are both.
And they're in anywhere also in the help.
Correct.
Yep.
They're in both. I just showed the screenshot from Central. Yep. All right. What are we doing after that? Well, this is where we'd really, really like your help. So these are the big things we're thinking about. Actually, we're more than thinking about them. Some of them we're acting on. In the first one, we're definitely acting on. We're working on a facelift for FileWave Central. We're really excited about this. I'm going to show you kind of a hot off the presses proof of concept here, where our design team sees a vision that kind of looks like this, where we're getting away from that kind of 1990s look of the product and updating it to be more something along the lines of this. And then here's kind of a sample of the client info view where you would have your tool sets and things. So just a UI refresh of the product. It's been just mentioned about 1 billion times on all of our NPS surveys that people would really like to see an update to this. So this is just work in progress. There's no code has been done on this. This is just our designers having their way with their ideas. But you can see we're kind of getting a little bit of a meld of the look of the FileWave Anywhere solution, the web solution, and the native solution, the central solution, because we don't want it to feel like you're using two entirely different tools, because in reality you're not. So we're working on that for sure. But the other things that we're considering, and again, more than considering really, is third-party patching. We can do third-party patching today. You can use FileWave, of course, many of you have for many years, to build your own third-party patches and distribute them. But we've also got integrated solutions like Wing It from Microsoft and AutoPKG, of course, that we can integrate with. And then we're also looking at doing something better for those, maybe putting a front end on those, making it super, super simple to use them and a little bit more user-friendly than they are today. That's very much on our mind, as well as enhancements to software updates, particularly around the way that we create them and assign them to make it easier to do the mass types of operations that you would like to do. Like, hey, I want to take all of the patches that have come from Microsoft in this current month, and I want to assign them to this patch testing group to make that more seamless and easier. And in fact, any of the topics that you see on this list, if you feel passionate about anything you see here and you'd like to share your feelings on what's missing and all that, please just reach out to me. You can via email or through customer experience teams, et cetera, whatever's easy for you. And we'd be happy to sit down with you and talk about it. But we're looking at third-party patching. We're looking at enhancements to software update, and this would be work that we'd probably start in the summer. We're also looking at a kiosk refresh. Now that our team that's been working on Anywhere is going to have a little bit of a breather as that kind of gets its legs under it in the public forum. We'll probably utilize that team to refresh our kiosk, both from a behavioral standpoint and a look and feel of the kiosk, and make it look, well, it desperately needs a coat of paint and an update, and we've had a lot of feedback on that as well. So we're really excited to do that. And then kind of the last thing, and probably a little longer term, is to look at more of that reboot behavior, like the deferral stuff that was mentioned before. And we're still thinking very strongly about maybe doing something with Chromebooks. So any of these topics that you think, hey, that's something that I really, really care about, please do reach out and let us know. Myself, PN, Christopher would love to sit down with you and talk about those things and see that at least the things we're thinking about hopefully line up with the things you're thinking about. And I think that's pretty much it for me. I don't know, I'm not watching the chat, so I don't know if there have been any questions there that we should touch on at this point, or if Josh, you want to pick up from here.
I can pick up from here. There's some stuff in chat, but
okay, I'll go ahead and stop
responses
here.
And we can always double back when we hit the AMA portion, and I will share again, and I'm guessing my computer will not completely crash a second time. So, okay. So this slide should be showing, is it?
It is.
Yes. All right, good, good. So we're back in business. So 1410, like we said, we're going to make it available to everyone. Next week on Wednesday, the download page will be publicly accessible. On Thursday morning, if you're a hosted customer, you'll find that your server was upgraded unless you push back on the date. You're going to see that hosting operations will send out emails to hosted customers, likely today. They're working out just making sure that they have the current list of customers in the email that goes out. And so you should see that note coming out. There should also be a marketing email that comes out in the next week, likely on Wednesday next week. Because we don't have the download page live. So we usually send that announcement when we make that live. Some people wanted this update right away because there was a vulnerability in Apache since the first of the year. We checked and we're not affected by it, but sometimes when you have security teams, they simply want you to upgrade for the sake of upgrading just to be extra sure. There was also an OpenSSL vulnerability that we did need the update for, and both of those are in 1410. So you'll want that update. A couple of people reached out to me and asked for it early, and so if you did want to be in sort of that early adopters where you get it first and you get it before next week on Wednesday, you could reach out to me. Or if you open a support case, if you don't know how to reach me, if you open a support case, they'll pass it off to me, and we can get you that early if you need it. So beyond these security updates, and they're important because every version generally includes updates to the third-party tools that we leverage, like Apache and OpenSSL. When we say, it's really good to go to the latest version, it's good beyond just FileWave features. It's important for security, right? To update when it comes out if you can, because you will avoid your server getting possibly exploited. So just an important thing to call out. Okay, and in theory, I went to the right. Yep, okay. So I was going to talk about FileWave Communities. The past couple of Alliance meetings, we've talked about it because in September 2022, we launched the Alliance forums, and there's an image off to the right there of the forums, right? And Discord I launched right before we were closed for Christmas. And people might wonder, well, why do we have these two different platforms? Why not just one? And it really comes down to Discord is really good if you want to be super engaged, be able to get someone right away. It's chat tends to be more real time. We can hold events there, but it's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to be in Discord in the chat environment. Some people would prefer a web forum. It's just really personal preference. So we kind of made these two paths so that you could go with the one that works best for you. As well, if you're in education, you may not be able to get to Discord when you're, at work. It may be some effort for you to get it approved that Discord could be open to you, because generally any chat system, in education is typically blocked because there's, probably awful things somewhere in Discord too, just like the same reason you block Facebook and all the other things. So I will say, if you are in an environment that blocks Discord, and if there's any way that you have an exception as a staff person to be able to get to it, there's a lot of good stuff in Discord. But if you can't, the Alliance forums, we try and bring conversations to both places. If something's posted in the forums seems really interesting, I'll paste it into Discord and vice versa. So we try and keep people updated in both places. And we have folks like me and Sean and Andrew and Emma, trying to watch over them, trying to answer things where maybe another customer didn't provide an answer. These forums are really for you guys to be able to share with each other, but it's also, we look for things that have been asked that maybe only a FileWave person could answer. So that's kind of the reason for both existing. And we will continue to do both. It's not like we're phasing one out. So there's the barcodes, the QR codes there for both. So if you didn't see the marketing emails with the links, you could, take a picture of that, take a screenshot of this, so you have the QR code there so that you could get into either. And I think at this time, John, you could put up a poll. There was a little poll we were going to see about if people had checked out the forums or Discord yet, just to get a feeling of where things are at. And so we'll leave that up for a moment to collect. And what I'll do also at the start of the AMA, when I'm sharing my screen and not the presentation, I'm going to show you where you can find things in Discord if you do go to Discord. Some people find Discord confusing because it is a bit busy. It does a lot of things, but I'll show a little bit of how you could find things in Discord. And if you've tried to use the forums and you were confused about how to log in, you went to log in to post something and you just couldn't figure out what login that is, it's the same login you would use for support tickets. And if you're not someone who can make support tickets, because you're not listed as a support contact, you still can use the forums. You just have to let us know that you can't get in there, and we'll set you to what's called a limited support contact. That has no cost to it. And it would get you into the forums. It would get you into the Foundry, which is our video-based training. So you want to have that. And sometimes we target emails at the limited support contacts. Well, the limited, the full, the primary, the secondary. We'll send technical emails at people that are in those roles, because we figure if you're in that role, you're probably interested in that technical topic. So, okay. So probably that was enough time for people to vote. So I will just continue on to the next slide. And to that end, focusing specifically on Discord, we are holding events within Discord. Now, for those that can't get to Discord, we're recording them. And so the QR code on the left there will get you to our YouTube channel, for instance. So what we're doing is we're having the event in Discord. We're recording it because it might not be at the best time. 12 noon for me is midnight in Singapore. So if you're based in Singapore, you really wouldn't want to be on at midnight with me. So you could check out the recording in YouTube. And we're going to try and put things at various times to make it so that people could join live if they want. But if you can't get into Discord or you don't want to go into Discord, the videos are getting posted on YouTube. And so you could just watch the video on YouTube and benefit from it in that way. So that's kind of our tactic. And some of the things that we're having sessions on, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have one on Grafana, just kind of getting started, the basics of Grafana. We're going to have every month we actually have professional services open office hours. So you can come there and ask questions. Totally like free session. We're going to set up more of them so that we kind of have 3 sessions a month that are in the various time zones. So like Sean, who's in the UK, he can hold a session that's good for Europe. Jeff over in Asia, he can hold something that's, great for, Singapore or Vietnam or anywhere around there. And I would, I or Emma or Andrew can hold things that are good for the US. So maybe we can make a variety of times and, kind of include everybody in every time zone. We're going to have a session on third-party patching, kind of goes back to how Tony was mentioning patching and that we can do third-party patching. We think some people might struggle with the right ways to approach it or knowing what ways to approach it. So those sessions might be good for beginners, or even if you're really good at third-party patching, maybe you could join and have some advice to add. That's one of the nice things about the Discord chats is everybody can participate and share. They're small enough. Yeah.
There's a question from the chat about limited support contacts and can they get access to some of these resources?
So limited support contacts get access. Well, Discord you can just sign up for. Actually, you don't need to be any kind of contact. But the Alliance forums, the Foundry, anything else that we share, generally the login is open to limited support contacts who have, it's not a paid role, it's a free role. Just contact customer experience. So it's customer.experience@filewave.com. And, if you can't log in, they can set you straight and get you access. YouTube obviously is open to anyone.
So to reiterate what you're saying there is limited support folks should already have access. But if you don't have folks that are set up as limited support, they would need to have a contact created for them, correct?
Yeah, and customer experience could do that. So, and actually it's kind of important, and I see the email address was just shared by Emma, thanks. If you've had turnover in your organization and maybe the admin has changed there, maybe the people that use FileWave have changed, you should probably reach out to customer experience and just make sure that they have those contacts, because that will control access to some of the things like the Foundry. And when we send out emails about events and things, then we're contacting the people that are there. I've seen in some cases where an admin leaves and the new admin actually was still using the old admin's email because emails were still going there, and then I would help set that straight and put the actual email in for the new person. So good to keep those updated, so we could be in contact with you and share the things you need. So, okay. So, and we're gonna kind of talk more about Discord when the AMA starts, but FileWave Assist, I've also talked about this on the last few sessions. We have about 60 customers actually at this point doing FileWave Assist, and anyone who wasn't on past sessions and maybe doesn't know what this is, I've been getting a lot of questions because we mention it in renewals. So I just wanted to give another opportunity, and we can answer questions in the AMA or maybe a couple of questions right now. But this barcode would get you the PDF that would kind of explain the program. And The program is of various sizes. So if you're a very small organization, we typically team you up with 2 other organizations to have monthly sessions about roadmaps, best practices, health check kind of things, talking about a new release comes out. Well, what does it mean for you? What do you need to know? We'll help you keep things on the rails, keep them going well. And in the larger versions of this, there might be some in-depth training beyond, the monthly sessions. We kind of grow it based on organization size. And so, if you're an organization that has 20 people using FileWave as an admin, you probably have some amount of turnover, some need to train, and training is kind of part of this as well. So it's a program that's ongoing every month, kind of do it in sync with your renewals. So if you think that you're not taking full advantage of FileWave, if you think that you can really benefit from something that's kind of a monthly ongoing thing, then check this out. And we've said before that we were initially doing it in North America. This we can handle anywhere globally. And so if you see this and you're interested, I suppose the best thing to do would be reach out to customer experience, no matter what region you're in, and just let them know that you're interested in this program, and we'll get connected. And if you want to have a call with me, they'll link you up with me and we can chat about it. So it's been going really well. Okay, so the Foundry, this ties into really everything, right? So we have the FileWave Certified Administrator course. That is getting some overhaul this year. Like I said last year, it's going to get some overhaul, get some more things about the web admin or FileWave Anywhere. And so look to that to improve. We've had people taking the Certified Administrator course. If you don't know what that is, there's an exam. You get to use materials in the Foundry plus homework in the Foundry that you wouldn't see unless you're in the program. When you submit the homeworks, they get graded, usually by Sean. He handles pretty much all the grading of the assignments. And so the idea of the homework in the Foundry is that you can try out what you learned, and then somebody like Sean can look at it and see, was there an issue with how you did it? And then he'll provide guidance. He won't just say you got this right or wrong. He'll offer a tip or an explanation. And along with that FileWave Certified Admin program, you get 3 hours of one-on-one time. So if there's a topic that doesn't make sense, you could set up a session, and in the different regions, it would be like Jeff could handle it in Asia, and Sean in Europe, and Andrew and Emma and myself in North America. So we have folks globally that can do things in your time zone. And, through those 3 hours and the homeworks, the exam at the end to prove, to yourself what you knew, and you get a certificate at the end that can prove to maybe your manager or supervisor that, you completed some training. Maybe that certificate could help you with some other certification that you have with renewing it. Right now, the certificate doesn't mention a number of hours, but if that's something that you need for like professional development, I can tweak the certificate to include something like that. I already want to make that change to have it say a certain amount of hours that completing the FCA is equal to. So I guess think about that, and if you need that. There's a QR code here for the Foundry if you haven't seen it. If you're, if you commute to work or you're traveling ever and you want to use Foundry when you're, on the train going to work, we support the Moodle app. So on iOS or Android, if you look in the App Store, there's a Moodle app. So Foundry runs on Moodle. A lot of schools use Moodle. It's Moodle, Moodle. So you can use that app to actually download portions of the courses so that you can watch a video while you're on the go. Can make it more helpful. And as well in the Foundry, because kind of everything leading to the FCA is all the material in the Foundry. And no matter whether you're doing the FCA or not, you might go to the Foundry just to learn how to do something. And we've found that when we get new customers, or if you replace an admin and a new person comes in, it's a little difficult to get started, right? And the courses in the Foundry have always been very deeply technical. We are making a course in the Foundry that'll be kind of like a 100 totally overview and very high level set of videos that would be great for the new person that just needs to touch on, well, what are associations? What do I do with them? Or how do I, connect with TeamViewer just at a high level? What does it do for me? So those videos we're targeting for April to have those done, and those will be free for you to access, and they're going to be integrated into what we're doing with onboardings. When someone becomes a new customer, we're going to integrate those videos into the onboarding process so that we'll get you a little bit set up, then maybe you'll get to watch the videos, and then you come back to work with us. It gives you the ability to ask more meaningful questions in the onboarding process. I know everybody on this is probably already through their onboarding, but if you feel a little weak in some area, maybe these newer videos will help you. So that's an ongoing process.